Well, news breaking in the last half hour. Gautrain workers affiliated to the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, they say they'll start an indefinite strike on Monday. The move comes as workers are demanding a wage increase of 8%. The Bombela operating company is offering a 4% wage increase. The NUMSA spokesperson, Pakamile Majola, joins us. Now, Pakamile, good afternoon to you. Why are you going on strike?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. Our members feel deeply aggrieved by the fact that the management of the Bombela operating consortium, which does not want to engage us meaningfully in respect of the wage negotiations and the increase which they want to impose. They are, in fact, imposing that 4%, and we have not been meaningfully engaged in that. When we tried to negotiate, they cut the negotiations short with the view of an attempt to try and lock us out. And we are still saying that we would prefer to find one another instead of having to resort to strike action.
8%. How did you arrive at that figure?
The 8% is based on what we secured last year, and why we've set it at that is because we really are focusing on the lowest paid employees who are earning on average about 8,500 rand, and we feel given the financial constraints that many people are facing, and workers in particular and their families, that this would at least go further in trying to cushion them at that level.
Okay, I mean, you'll know, Pakamile, you've seen this argument play out many times, that many people in this country are losing their jobs or having their salary cut. CPI, consumer price inflation figures for the month of August coming in at 3.2%. 8% is a big increase in that context, surely.
8,500 rand, Stephen, is a very low income for anyone to have to exist on. And if we look at the South African historical context, many companies do not actually consider the cost of living, the actual cost of living. They look strictly at CPI. They don't look at the cost of transportation. They don't look at the fact that workers in South Africa are some of the lowest paid across the world. They don't look at the fact that the working class supports 5 to 7 unemployed family members. They don't look at the cost of petrol and the cost of taxi fares and all of those expenses that they have on workers. Prior to lockdown, the average South African worker was spending more than 50% of his or her salary just on transportation alone. So I think, and again, we want to emphasize that our members are not unreasonable. We are open to negotiation. The problem that we have here is we're dealing with a management that doesn't even want to engage. It's the fact that they're imposing this on our members. And even if it is true that they're going through financial difficulty, the law is very clear that you may not impose changes on the workforce without meaningful engagement. And in our view, the Gautrain management is provoking the strike by refusing to sit down around the table and find a meaningful solution that doesn't involve strike action.
We've seen strike action at the Gautrain before, particularly with the bus drivers. Just remind me, Pakamile, what percentage of workers on the Gautrain system do you actually represent? I can't remember.
I actually don't have that information on hand. What I can tell you is that our members are represented across the spectrum. They include workers in maintenance, train drivers, technicians, and the mobilization that we've done and the canvassing that we've done, we are sure that the strike will definitely have an impact on operations. And this is why we would prefer a situation where we can find one another instead of resorting to strike action.
You talk about operations, you talk about train drivers. Do you believe that you'll be able to stop the trains from operating or only the buses?
I think it would be a mixture, as I said to you, because we are actually represented across the spectrum and we're the majority union. So we do feel that it would have an impact on all operations.
Okay. The Gautrain is actually a fascinating employer on one level, because you'll know we've been talking about the state as an employer and the Public Service Bargaining Council, etc., 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 government. We've been talking about the private sector. Your union has more members in the private sector than most other places, but you also have members at SAA. So as I understand the financial situation around the Gautrain, it doesn't actually make a profit. It's subsidized by the Gauteng provincial government. And if it has fewer passengers or makes a bigger loss than usual, it's the Gauteng provincial government that ends up carrying the tab. In the end, the money that your members might get if they get an 8% increase actually comes from taxpayers, doesn't it?
Our members are taxpayers too, Stephen, and their taxes are the ones that are partly subsidizing the Gautrain, and I think it's important that people remember that. And again, what we want is meaningful engagement. What we are saying and what we keep repeating is that we want to talk. We've not had the opportunity to talk so that we can find each other, so that we can discuss precisely what you're putting on the table. They cut short those negotiations, and this is what we say is provoking strike action.
Okay, so Monday is when your strike starts. NUMSA's phones are on. You'll take a call?
Yeah, we'll take
from Bombela. All right, thanks very much indeed. Pakamila Klubi Majola, I do appreciate the time. Well,